password changes, a stupid hacker, and AI music scraping. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by 1Password. More than just a password manager, now with extended access management. Find out more at onepassword.com/product/XAM. I don't know, but I do know this one surprised me. This is from Apple World Today. And that is that 45% of Americans do nothing when notified that their password is compromised.
And I would venture to speculate that it's a pretty high percentage that when they see something like this, they're like, I don't know. And they just move on with life.
Jeff, congratulations. That never occurred to me. That they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know to go in and change it.
Yeah,
wow.
Seriously, I would bet that accounts for a lot of these people. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. Just if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Cletus in the chat room asks, how many Americans forget their password?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, absolutely, Cletus. Absolutely.
I deal with it every day at work.
Yeah. And Brian, you have a comment about the upcoming Passwords app for the Apple systems.
Yeah, I mean, right now you get kind of like those little more gentle nudges. I think it's I was just trying to find it myself, where if it was in Safari, like saving the passwords, I think it is. Yeah. Where it kind of tells you, these are a couple passwords that are used in more than one place, or, these are some passwords you should consider changing. But with the separated passwords app, that would be a great way to maybe increase the nudging that people could use to, change your password, update it.
Well, and 1Password has a notification feature that, somewhere it looks like one of your passwords has been compromised and encourages you to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you start using 1Password, use the Passwords app. Web, you think that Apple wants to push passkeys as a platform?
Instead of using passwords, using the passkey as a more secure solution to alphanumeric passwords.
And I guess my concern about that is that not every site is equipped to use passkeys yet. And that's...
We got a bit of ways.
Yeah.
It seems transitional.
But a lot of them are. Google adopted it. I mean, you can use passkeys on my Google account. So
I feel
so they're trying to get it across. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I ain't going to talk about Microsoft then. So.
Yeah. Please don't.
Yeah, I know.
Marty, I want you to explain your comment, because I do agree with it, but I don't fully understand why.
I don't understand why either. I think, though, for the average computer user, sometimes you get that option where the software will auto-generate a complicated password for you, and don't worry about it. It'll always be there for you to use, and you won't get locked out of your site because we'll know what password to put in there. I think for the average user, that gives up too much to the system, where they want to remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 password. And the idea of turning that much of their protection over to something that they can't see or control, for the average user, I think they just rather use the same password over and over and over again.
The number of people that I encounter that use the same password everywhere because it's easier for them is surprising. And when I point out in a friendly way, if that password is compromised at any point, Now, whoever has that can log into every site that you have a login for. And the response almost always is, I know, but this is just so much easier for me.
Wow. Wow.
And when I point out, look, keychain will keep track of all of that for you. You don't have to remember anything except the password you use to log into your Mac. It's too complicated. I'm not going to do that. It's too complicated.
Well, and it gets more complicated if you have to use more than one machine and they're not all yours.
Yes, that's true. In most cases, I'm talking with people that it's just their computer and they have an iPhone. That's it.
Eric, you bring up a great point, which to my way of thinking is another great advantage to the Apple ecosystem, because it shares things across, and also the same with 1Password, and 1Password will cross platforms too. So you have a number of options out there. It's just, I don't know how to get people to pay attention to it, or to take Jeff's point. It's just that much more friction, and yet that little bit of friction will give you substantially more security, because not everybody else is going to do it. So, at least make yourself a little bit more difficult target, so that the bad guys can go and pick off the others.
Well, Chuck, a lot of people, they don't see it that way. They see it as, I'm just some rando person. Why would the bad guys target me? And they don't get the whole thing about, it's not about targeting you. It's about targeting places where your information is. Once they have that, they have your information, and they don't care who you are at all. They just care about, I've got this database that has usernames and passwords. Let's try those on a bunch of other sites. And they just don't grasp that. Their whole thing is, I'm not significant.
Dave, in our private chat, you and Webb are bouncing back and forth about copy and paste. I mean, it's not a great solution. In fact, it's far from a great solution. But even if you kept a list of passwords and just copied and pasted them out of there, it's got to be better than reusing passwords or using easily guessable passwords.
And there lies the folks that don't use password managers. I went into 1Password and generated that password I put in our private chat just to point out, that's what scares people. This is a all over the place password that's not very memorable, but that's what the secure password managers do. You can copy paste it and it goes across all your devices, your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, even if you have a PC. Anybody who has a computing device has that. The problem is people are so used to entering their passwords manually all the time because they think they have to remember it, and that isn't going to do me any good because I can't remember it. Well, you got your password manager, you can go look it up, and I know it's going to be a bit of a pain to type it in, but wouldn't you rather have your bank have this type of a secure password versus it being password 1234? Not that people are doing that anymore. We always joke about it, but that's the whole point. I mean, I think that these people are just scared to use these complex passwords. I mean, even when you're in a browser, when it offers, with 1Password's integration, that it generates, a pretty complex password, you're never going to remember it. But of course, it's going to be that way. I work in the corporate world. I have to have an administrative account. I never know my password because we use a very secure password generator system that password changes on a daily basis. So that password doesn't even stay the same after a day. That's even more. That gets to an extreme on the corporate end of things. So think of it that way. That's the only way you can keep things secure, because if you have administrative rights on a machine, you can cause some pretty serious damage if you have that account. So,
Dave, don't you know that the login is always admin lowercase with password admin lowercase?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, I gotta write this down so I remember how to log in.
Let me write that down.
Jeff is busy writing tonight.
Admin
Jeff,
123.
Yeah, Jeff, you make an interesting private chat. Our private chat, as well as the YouTube chat, are are blowing up tonight. This is great. But Jeff, you make a really good point, because I've run into
Yeah.
this a number of times
Me too.
where the password fields don't let you copy and paste, or don't let you paste in. And I haven't figured out why it wouldn't let me paste in.
It's a misguided
Design.
attempt to enhance security, but it's not actually effective. So all it really does is push the average user into creating non-secure passwords,
Right.
so that it's easy and fast for them to type in, since they can't use another system to autofill that password.
In the chat room, Cletus says, I don't know how many houses I go to where the owner tells me the door code is 1234.
Yeah.
And then Craig says, hey, quit sharing my password. So party at Craig's house this weekend. We know the door code.
Yeah.
Craig won't be there, but we will be.
Yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Sorry about what's going to happen to your refrigerator. Well, the good news is that not all of the hackers are very bright. Because
Surprise.
okay, there we go. I was going to say my keyboard stopped working again. Hack and payback Instagram scammer gets nabbed after bragging about it on a podcast.
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord.
I don't know what to say. Why would you go on a podcast? Why would you go anywhere and brag about committing a crime? And especially anywhere that's public. So
These people are just so dumb. I mean, I and once in a while I watch, this Scammer Payback is one of the more popular YouTube channels that are going after these people all over the world, And when he calls out and says, hey, I know where you are in India, and here's your exact location, and he's in their machines, and he's deleting all the data that he scammed people. It's the same kind of stuff. I mean, they're so dumb, they just don't know these things. And this is a good exact point of just sitting there bragging about something that you did, and then like someone's not going to find out about it, and then bust your butt for that.
When he tells this story in prison, he's going to be real popular.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Chuck, part of the problem with this, there's so many problems with this, but
Yeah.
part of the problem with this information getting out in the way it did is that there's a psychological thing where knowing a secret gives you power. But the only way for people to know that you have this power is to tell them the secret that you hold. And so you get this thing where people do stupid stuff like this, where they brag about what they're doing because it's this powerful secret in their mind, and you have to show people your power. Hence,
Jeff, have you been seeing Marty professionally? That
I'm his ghostwriter.
yeah. Marty, you're doing a great.
I'm not Marty's ghostwriter, just in case anyone thinks that was serious.
I was just about to ready to type into the chat that Jeff wins Jeopardy tonight.
Woohoo!
That final Jeopardy answer.
Oh, hey, to circle back though, and this is one time I didn't overlook something. It's just the delay that is natural with our YouTube chat. Brett, where is it? Brett says, or questions, not allowing paste in a password field is an attempt to stop brute force attacks, right? I never thought about it that way. So I guess that, could you write a script that could constantly paste in, and one of the ways to defeat that would be only allow so many pastes, but.
Sure, but then you can also write a script that sends keystrokes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Interesting point though, Brett. Interesting point. Today's Mac Voices is brought to you by 1Password Extended Access Management. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are the company-owned devices, IT-approved apps, and managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the actual straight lines from point A to point B. Those are the unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and non-employee identities, like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all those unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional AIM and MDM can't. It's security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/product/XAM. That's onepassword.com/product/XAM. Thanks to 1Password for supporting MacVoices. This next one touches on something we've talked about, and that's the AI scraping the internet. But there's an AI startup that's arguing that every song on the internet is fair use. And Jeff, before calm down,
I'm
Jeff.
sorry.
Calm down.
I didn't see this story ahead of time, so this was my first exposure to it. And
if you
Chuck,
read
thank
it,
you for bringing this kind of joy into my life.
Well, but read it, Jeff. It seems on the surface that that's just stupid, but you can't.
But when you dig deeper, it's stupid.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. The RIAA is calling the defendant's actions evading and misleading. There's a big surprise, but it does state that they're making the argument, quoting, "It is fair use under copyright law to make a copy of a protected work as part of a back-end technological process, invisible to the public, in the service of creating an ultimately non-infringing new product." Now, if that's the case, if that's an accurate statement, then training something might fall under that.
Chuck, how many seconds of a song can you play before you have to pay royalties on it? Like if you wanted to use a song on your show.
I honestly don't know, Jeff, because I never wanted to mess with it because of the YouTube algorithms and how touchy they can get.
I think it's 5 or 10 seconds.
Oh yeah.
It's 0. You can play 0 seconds.
Oh, so if you play like even a minuscule second of it, they'll know.
And you have to pay. Yeah. So fair use, I think that they are really, in this case, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying something that ultimately defends the recording industry, because they do so many horrible things. Remember, this is the industry that sat in court and with a straight face said, if you want to play a CD in your home and in your car, you have to buy 2 copies of the same CD, because one is a license for home and one is a license for the car. And if you have 2 cars, you're going to have to get a CD for each car. Anyhow, I think that that this interpretation of fair use is really stretching legit fair use, and I have a difficult time believing that this argument would stand up in court.
But Jeff, if you take that statement, if it is fair use under copyright law, that's a big if, to make a copy of a protected work as part of a back-end technological process, invisible to the public, in the service of creating an ultimately non-infringing new product. If that is an accurate interpretation of the law, it would seem to apply.
If that's an accurate interpretation, sure. But I have a feeling they will find it very difficult to defend that interpretation in court.
It'll definitely be something to watch.
And I'm happy to stand on a pedestal and say, man, the AA, they do some pretty crappy stuff. But that said, I don't think this is an argument that's going to hold up under scrutiny.
Yeah.
And I feel totally confident in saying this and qualified to say this because I have played a lawyer on stage.
You've played a lot of things on stage,
Yeah,
Jeff,
you
and,
have.
Boy,
and off,
howdy.
actually. and
Stage,
off.
screen, everywhere.
Ryan?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't necessarily agree, with their premise, I guess, but are they not doing what at least some other LLMs are doing, but for written in artistic creations, utilizing, scraping the web for information that's already published and then, presenting it in a slightly different way. Sometimes not even that slightly.
You mean like the research models?
Well, I'm thinking sometimes when you ask, ChatGPT for a response on something, or use it's the Microsoft version Copilot, and you're asking it for something, and it gives you the references, but yet the references, it's like it just was word for word. It was just exactly what it said, or extremely, extremely close to what was said. It just seems so similar, just a different medium. Instead of using art or text, it's using audio.
Yeah, I'm
When
not
you
sure
do-
that's correct either.
Yeah.
When you do a Google search, it shows, a little bit of the content in the search. I don't think the 0 seconds has anything to do with fair use. I mean, there are cases where it's fair use to use the whole thing. I think like in some educational settings. I think, these people are putting money where their mouth is. They've apparently hired lawyers, and, presumably they had, some lawyers that said they had a case, or they wouldn't be doing this, or, maybe they're just idiots. But, that's why this is what we have courts for, right? I mean, this is something that's just going to have to be decided in courts. And I have not played a lawyer anywhere, and
We should do a show together. We'd be awesome.
We do every Tuesday.
And see, we're awesome.
Marty, I want to go back to your comment. You said was it a typo? Did you really mean to say I can pay that tune in 0 seconds?
I really meant to say I can pay that tune in 0 seconds.
I said name that tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of name that tune.
That was pretty funny.
I waffle on this a lot, because if I go to an AI generator and say, I'd like you to generate something musical that sounds like Steely Dan, and it goes out there and it accesses Steely Dan tunes, it comes up with the jazz rhythm for it, and it generates some unique sounding, not Steely Dan song, but sounding like Steely Dan. Is that fair use of surveying Steely Dan's music or not?
Well, is it fair use that some authors, forget the digitization part, have written stories in the style of other authors?
Yeah, I mean, two Mac stocks ago, I had AI, an LLM, write a Bruce Springsteen song about a dog that was down on his luck, and I don't know if it surveyed Thunder Road, but reading the prose, it sounded like a Bruce Springsteen song.
Eric?
I think when people originally started building models, they didn't worry at all about the source material. They just needed a lot of material, and they went wherever, and everyone that was helping them went whatever and grabbed material and threw it into the models. It's only been relatively recently, when the models are being used for something commercial and being used by the public in general, and other people are seeing it, that there's been a lot more concern about, well, what was the material? I think that the concern is valid, and the response of switching over to licensing the material used to build the model, I think, is potentially a good solution. There may be cases for research where you're just building a model to see how a model works, where maybe it doesn't matter. But if you're turning around and having it generate something to respond to requests, I would think you'd have to be pretty careful about how you got the material. Now, whether that's right or not right, since I'm not a lawyer, I don't have to worry about it. It is of concern to many people, though.
Well, Eric, some of this feels like when you're referencing the early days of the scraping, it feels like, to go back to our discussion of Social Security numbers, that people were giving things away that they didn't know had any value, or putting them out there, and then somebody found a value to them, and oh my God, now we have to adjust our thinking. And that, I guess, is why up to a point relatively recently, I haven't been able to get too terribly excited over them, the companies using content of mine, content of yours, content of anybody's for training the models. But when people start then being able to emulate or to make money off of the work that you've done or I've done, then it becomes a different matter. So I feel like, that this is another one of those transition periods on our thinking for things.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a writer or you're a photographer and your body of work over decades is all thrown into a model someplace, and somebody can go say, hey, I need a picture of a perennial prairie plant, and it can spit it out without having to go and buy a photograph from you, and they can do it at scale where everybody across the United States can ask the same question, and then you no longer have a business. That's a problem. It's different from you put a picture up at school or at the library, and some child gets to draw a copy of it or asked to take it home and put it up in their bedroom. That's a single use. If it's just a computer query remotely without any connection back to you, that's just taking your work and without your permission and having somebody else get benefit from it.
Barry in the chat room says, I've had the YouTube algorithms for copyrighted audio flag iMovie and GarageBand loops as violating. And yeah, Barry, that's exactly why I don't play with, even a few seconds of any copyrighted music, because it's just, the algorithms are not perfect yet. And the last thing I want to do is have my channel taken down or frozen or locked out because of a mistake there. So it's just easier not to do anything. Yeah. Guys, we're already over time. We haven't even touched on CrowdStrike. Does anybody want to stick around and kick it around, or do you want to hold off on it because it seems to be an ever developing thing?
I'd say let's hold it.
Okay. All right. So then, folks, pay attention, because the CrowdStrike thing is evolving. I've got like 5 articles here that I've over the past couple of weeks that have been really interesting. And if you haven't gone back and looked at it, we'll touch on it next week, or just do some research on yourself, because some of it is very flat out entertaining.
Yeah. Oh God, what I do this time?
No, it's Jeff. It's not you. Really, the things that I've cracked up about are the back and forth between Delta and CrowdStrike, and then Microsoft.
I need to read up on that.
Yeah, and
$500 billion will do that to you.
Yeah, and Delta praising Apple, and so yeah, it was interesting. We're back in the saddle. Thank you guys. Great discussion tonight. I'm sure we have more coming. I know we have more coming because all this stuff just keeps developing. So let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you when you're not here sharing your wisdom. And I'm going to reverse it this time. Eric, I'm going to start with you and your purple friend. Where can folks find you?
Monday nights with Marty on the Vision Profiles podcast. Tuesday here, and EA Bolden at techhub.social on Mastodon.
Great. Thanks for being here. Well, Bixby, will your wife be doing more quilts, or are we going to see this one for a little while?
Not for a while, because she's heading out of the country next week. So I'll dig up another picture here or there. But yeah, she's dumping me for a week, and her and her mother and her best friend are heading to Switzerland for a week. So you're stuck with me. So
cool. Party at Webb's house. We'll
party
go
at
from
Webb's house. Yeah.
From Craig's house to Webb's house.
What's even funnier is that it's actually party at Tracy's house. The house is in her name. So
Password is 1234.
yeah.
Where can
Bixby at Twitter, formerly known as X. So
great. And the home address is? Oh,
yeah.
Never mind. Put that in the chat. Put that in the chat.
If you're any good at hacking, you can figure it out pretty easily. So,
Jim Ray, thank you for being here. Where can folks find you?
You can find me on Mastodon at ProVueJim, ProVueJim at techhub.social.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Jeff Gamet, good to have you back in the saddle. You were on a double hiatus, and I'm so glad to have you back. Where can folks find you?
Well, first, I'm glad that I'm still alive and kicking, and it's awesome to be back and to hang out with all of you. So, yeah, when I'm not sitting here waxing poetic about all of you, I'm Jay Gamet on social media. And I'm active right now on Mastodon and Instagram. And then for shows, let's see if I can remember what I'm on, because it's been a while. Let's see, here on Tuesdays with you, Chuck. So thank you for letting me join in and be a rabble rouser. Then on Thursdays, Dave, thank you for letting me join in and be a rabble rouser on In Touch with iOS. British Tech Network, The Big Show, and The Mac Show. So that would be Thursday and Friday. Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I now do Retro Rewatch, where we are watching and talking about the shows that I should have seen, but never did. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I hit the big stuff.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, it's good to see you back in a tie. It just looks right. Where can folks find you?
Thank you. It feels good to be back in my tie. You can find me on Mastodon, Brian8944 at mastodon.cloud.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Dave Ginsburg, good to see you as well. Where can folks find you?
Great to see you as well, Chuck. You could find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm here on Tuesday nights. I'm on the Mac Show usually on Fridays on the British Tech Network, as well as on my Mastodon at DaveG65 and mastodon.cloud.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Last but not least, we end where we started with Marty Jencius. Marty, you and your finger. I hope it feels better soon. Where can folks find you?
You can find, actually, Eric and I did our maiden voyage on YouTube last night doing our episode live streamed of Vision Profiles. You can find that at youtube.com/@visionprofiles. Also visionprofiles.info. I'm here on Tuesday nights with a great group of friends, and also on Thursday with Dave Ginsburg and other great friends there on In Touch with iOS. And then, of course, Vision Profiles, Circular Firing Squad, and the Tech Savvy Professor are some of my podcasts.
Great. Thank you, Marty. Folks, I will definitely want to say a big thank you to the chat room. I would love to throw more of their comments in. They were going so thick and fast that I couldn't keep up with them all. But thank you guys for showing up. I've missed you. I've missed the live panel. I've missed the chat room. I'm so glad we're back where we should be. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. If you're listening to this in the feeds, join us. We have a lot of fun every Tuesday night. You could be part of it. Until the next time, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.